Very impressive collection, and also your presentation is very enlightening to us. What is the oldest archive that this institution has? Because prior to the arrival of the slaves, the Dutch administration, the POC, they exiled some of the Indonesian noblemen, like Raja Tambora, Tuan Guru, Sheikh Yusuf. They were exiled because they rebelled against the Dutch colonization. So, do you also have the records of that arrival? And also, I already met with several descendants of Indonesian ulamas, like Tuan Guru. We also have like I think Sheikh Yusuf Agadin in Port Elizabeth. He keeps a good record of Indonesian history in Port Elizabeth. I learned that some of the manuscripts are in their possession from generations. So, is there any effort from this institution to make a copy of that? Because I know that the original copy of the Quran written by Tuan Guru is in the possession of the family for many generations. I'm just curious whether this institution has also tried to have the copies of the manuscripts held by families.
Terima kasih. Okay, first of all, the first records that we have available are dating back from to 1651.
Yeah.
Before the official foundation of the Dutch at the Cape of the refreshment station. So whilst Jan van Riebeeck were on board bound to South Africa, they held a meeting on the Dromedaris, and that meeting's minutes counted as the first record. So that is the very first record that we have available. The other records that you are mentioning or touching on, we have to look on the NAS database, the National Archives' website, which is the search function. And there we will be able to determine if we have those records available, that you are, we can enter those keyword names of the persons, and we can see if we have those records available. And we can look within the strong room where that specific record are located. So we just need more information on the specific names and the time period, say for instance 1700 or 1720 and so forth. But and also your third question to touch on, if like the collection is at a private person, and they want to donate it to the archives, then there are processes to be followed, and they can enter it in the accessions. The accessions are a separate group that or either private individuals or societies that donated to the archives. So we also have that in a strong room for conservation and for long term. And we can make like a list also of that for research purposes. But maybe Namaso can also elaborate on that aspect there.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll first give to Mr. Commander.
Archives Advisory Committee, I can confirm at council level, at provincial council level of the archives of this institution, that the very question that you are raising has been discussed at the Western Cape Archives Council committee level, of which our chairman, Jane Duncan, can further also elaborate, as well as our director that is also of the archive, that's a member of the advisory council. Most important is, first of all, The presentation that we have received here is in terms of the slave records. They enslaved people from the four corners of the Indian Ocean. However, at council level, it has been identified with Professor Arun that have made overtures to the council, but our director will enlighten you on that. Most important is that council is aware that non-public records collections, as you have indicated, are at the moment outside the jurisdiction of this institution. Amongst others, the Tuan Guru documentation and various others, Jawi kitabs and other publications of that particular period brought by the enslaved peoples from Indonesia, as well as in terms of the political exiles, the Southeast Asian exiles, as you have highlighted. Our council is very much aware, and the directors and the management team are first of all the legacy of the Southeast Asian political exiles that have brought these Jawi kitabs. Professor Arun will enlighten us on it primarily. That the South African institutions of memory have not yet been able to access these private collections, but it will most likely become a standing item on council to monitor. However, the most crucial aspect that Professor Arun may elaborate is the trust deficit between government institutions and the people of South Africa. Now, the families that have these collections, they've always been the marginalized, the excluded over centuries. So, in the post-1994 South African dispensation, this is a government of the people, for the people. And this institution, already at council level and at archival, I don't want to preempt the director's contribution, but at archives committee, advisory committee level, we're very much aware of some of the deficits of the current colonial archive that we have in our possession, as it so greatly been outlined. But our director and our chairman and Professor Arun will further be able to shed light on this new aspect of transforming the archives collection.
In fact, 1996, the archives mandate has been extended very strenuously to include non-public records and to give the archives the authority to collect those, to preserve those, with a special emphasis on the records of the past that were neglected. And so, as Mr. Kamalin was saying, we have the government records, we have the records of many of the slaves, the owners, as you saw the emphasis on owners, the list of the slaves, etc. But not a lot of other non-public records of more marginalized peoples. And our committee and the archives are determined to rectify that and to play a role in making that legacy available and accessible to other people, and to ensuring that it is kept in very safe hands. Now, quite how that will happen or what form it might take is something that, I mean, it's being very tentatively discussed at the moment, but it is definitely something that we are taking very seriously. You know, there is a responsibility to protect the legacy of all people in this province. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I think both Joanne and Mr. Kamadin have.
This is in the spirit of like preserving the collective memory of South Africa, especially the Malay community. Perhaps, for instance, the institution could just make copies if they still want to keep them in the family. It's just a thought.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for meeting, so to speak, partly because I think when I met up with Director and others so earlier in the year, I didn't realize that our good friend Mr. Kamalin will be on the committee, because he also has himself a rich history and of course with Robert Shell involved in a major project that I think has done